All right, class. So today I have a really exciting Photopea um, tutorial for you. We're going to be making a ghost image using 3 photographs. And really important, you must take the first photograph. So that is going to be your background for the ghost image. This is my image right here. I went out into my alley and took a picture of this. I think it works really well. I wanted to show a little bit of this house that kind of has a barn feel to it, or the garage that has a barn feel in the background. And I'm going to be placing my ghost somewhere around here. You must take this photograph. The background photograph must be yours. You are going to search for an image. You can find some creepy, ghostly images if you want, but typically I would rather that you find something that is like a picture of a real person, not already a ghost, because we're going to turn this image into something that looks like a ghost. Okay, and that's part of the important element of it. And then you're going to also find an image of a cracked wall, of some sort of textured cracked wall. And how are you going to find those things? You're going to Google them, save them onto your desktop, and then you're going to use them as different elements in your image. So you can Google like creepy girl in a dress, creepy man wearing a suit, whatever you want to look for your ghost. And then for the textured wall, you could use different things like light leaks and things like that, and I'll show you in a moment how to do that. But for this one, I googled textured cracked wall. I wanted to have the crack in there for a good reason. Okay, so once you have all those things, you're going to bring them in to Photoshop or in Photopea as separate elements, just by dragging and dropping into this area, right? So there's my third thing. I'm going to switch back to this image. And to start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an adjustment layer that makes this black and white. Okay, so I'm going to go to my adjustments layers here by clicking on the black and white circle. I'm going to go over to black and white. I'm going to click on that. And I get my properties box here that pops up that allows me to kind of play around with it if I want. You could play around with the coloring if you want. Try not to make it too crazy. Do you want the foliage to show up more or less? I'm kind of going for mostly a dark image. So I'm going to try to darken things a little bit more, like so. And there you go. So once you're happy with that, if you want to get it out of the way, just click on your properties box and it will hide. And here I have my adjustments layer. What's really important is that this is a layer that I can move around and move other objects below or on top of it, which I'll show you in a moment. The next thing I want you to do is create a new layer. And there's a couple ways you can do that. You can go to Layer, New Layer. Or you can go down here, which is the way that I like to do it, where I got my adjustment layer. I'm going to go over here. This is a new layer. I'm going to click on it, and a new layer pops up on top of my other layer. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about where I want to place my ghost, and I'm going to end up making fog there. But let's place our ghost before we get to that point. So now that I have my extra layer, I have my black and white adjustment layer, and I have my background, I'm good to go. If you want to edit your background, before you jumping into this, you could go to image adjustments, play around with the levels, darken it up, maybe add some more contrast to it, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. Okay. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go to my ghost layer. Okay. And there's a number of ways that we can actually remove one of these people. I'm actually going to choose the one in the grayer dress. I'm going to use my navigator. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see a little bit better where I'm trying to work. Okay. And I'm going to use my lasso to just draw around it. But there's a number of different ways that you can remove something from a background. And I'm going to start drawing as well as I can along these lines. And I'm going to make a mistake over here on purpose. I'll show you how to fix that later. And I'm just going to kind of drag and draw it might not be perfect. I'll just try to do as good of a job as I can going around the entire image. I'm going to cut across to this side, get this hand, come across over here, and go up. And, again, I'm just doing the best I can. It's okay if you miss a little bit. You can fix stuff. So, for instance, like right here, I missed a little bit of the arm. If I hold Shift in my lasso layer and I just draw a little bit more, I can pick that up so I can fix it afterwards. Just draw around that area to create an addition to it. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to shift to get the rest of it. So I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to click here and I'm going to start drawing again. Okay. So this will add that to my selection. If you ever want to get rid of an area that you didn't mean to get, like, whoops, I got more of that than I want to do. I don't want that part of the floor. There's a number of ways we can fix it. I'll show you that in a second. But again, just do the best job you can, drawing around it with your lasso. And then, okay, so I didn't want this part right here. Shift will add, Alt Option will subtract. So I draw around that part. And voila, I don't have it anymore. So holding Alt Option while clicking to drag will remove area of selection, and plus or Shift will add. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fix this little area a different way. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to go to Edit, Copy. So it's copying my selection. I'm going to go to my background layer, and I'm going to just hit Edit, Paste, and there we go. My ghost showed up a little tiny, but there otherwise, So to make it larger, I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform. I'm going to get a bounding box around my ghost object. Now, if I just start pulling, I can make her pretty wide, but if I hold Shift, it actually keeps it proportionate. Okay, so if I hold Shift, I get more of a proportionate ghost image. Okay, so let's I'm going to put my ghost, I want to put my ghost right around here. I want to have that little window in the background. Okay, and I like this size. So I'm going to hit Enter. Remember, I had that little black area outside of my ghost that I wanted to get rid of. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And this little part right here, I'm going to get rid of it by going to my eraser tool right here, clicking on the eraser tool. And my brush is very tiny. So I'm going to come up to the top left here, click on my brush size. I'm also going to soften it up to about a 50% edge and make this a little bit larger. See that? Perfect size. And I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to erase that edge, right? And if you have like a hard edge or something like that, that's another way that you could you can come in and kind of just soften up the edge a little bit by doing that as well. Okay, so I just did a little bit on the hand there too. I don't like how jagged this looks, so I can soften that up as well. All right, so there we go. I'm going to zoom back out. Okay. And so now I have 4 layers. I have my background, I have my ghost, I have my black and white layer, and I have this empty layer. This probably won't change anything right now because if my image was originally black and white, but if you drag your layers above or below the adjustment layer, it will apply that application to it or not. So the adjustment layer is only impacting everything below it. Keep that in mind. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this layer that I made before, this empty layer. And if you didn't do that before, you just click on this right next to the trash can. This is add a new layer. You get rid of a layer by hitting the trash can would delete that layer. So this is new layer. I'm going to go over to my paintbrush, which is right here. Looks just like a paintbrush. I'm going to click on the paintbrush. And I want a fairly large brush tip. So I'm going to click on my brush's size. And I'm going to go larger than this. You can see it getting large right there. That's about the size I want. And I want it to be very soft. So I'm going to go down to within the teens, okay? My color, I can come down here, click on this. The top color is the color that I'll get. If I were erasing, the bottom color is what I would get, okay? And I wanna make it white. So I click on white, I hit okay, and I'm gonna come over here, and what this is, I'm gonna make some fog. And I don't want my fog to be completely white. So watch what happens if I just paint with white right now. It just blocks my whole image, right? That's not what I want. So I'm gonna edit, step backward, okay? And I'm gonna change the opacity, which is next to where I changed the size. So I'm gonna come to opacity, I'm gonna bring it down also into just into the teens, or 20% works as well. Um, and now watch what happens when I paint. See, it's very faded. Now, I actually want to see this a little bit more than that. That was too little. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up to, like, let's try 35. That's pretty good, actually. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just like painting fog around my ghost. Maybe the fog is kind of rolling into this area over here. Okay. And what's kind of cool is if I do another layer on top, you'll see it kind of, adds another layer on top of that. And you can kind of build little layers of fog, by kind of painting over on top of each other like that. Okay. All right. So there you go. That's my fog. Now, the next thing I want, and you want to make sure that that layer is above your ghost layer, so the fog is in front of the ghost. Now I'm going to go to my ghost layer, layer 2. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to make my ghost see-through, because as you know, of course, ghosts are transparent. So I'm going to bring down my opacity to a point that I like. Okay. Now, notice how you can see, most of it you can see pretty clearly, right? Still at about 73%. I'm going to show you can get rid of other areas in a sec. I'm going to actually pull it up a little bit more to like 80, because I want the top to be less transparent than the bottom. So I want to erase actually a little bit down here. So just like I do with the brush to paint my fog, I'm going to go over to my eraser tool. Okay, and I'm going to make my brush size much larger. That's good. I'm going to bring my softness of the brush to about 22%. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go to like, let's, say in the 30s somewhere. And so now when I erase, it only erases at a 30% amount. And see this? So it's not getting rid of my ghost completely, but it's getting rid of it a little bit, right? And now I'm going to come in and do it again, and it's going to erase it a little bit more. And you can even come up like the side and have like part of it missing on one side, get rid of some edges there. So they look like maybe it's a little bit more clear on the left side than it is on the right side. Okay. You can barely see the feet there. I like that. You could also, go in and play with the, adjustment layers with this layer if you wanted to kind of like fix it up, make it a little bit more contrast. So you can see those edges a little bit more. Shadows pop out a little bit more doing it that way. Okay. Hit OK if you like it. All right. So the next thing I want to do is actually I'm going to blur the head of my ghost more. So under the eraser is the gradient tool and paint bucket. That's not what I'm going to use for this. I'm going to go to the blur, which is the little eye drop, right? It looks like a water drop. I'm going to go to the blur tool. I'm going to, increase the size of my brush to probably about 80. Seems to be working. A little bit larger than that, actually. Let's go like 200. Okay, about the size of the head. And again, I'm going to make this very soft, bring it down 30%, maybe even more, 25%. And I'm just going to keep the strength at 50%. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just drag it across. And it might be hard to tell, but it is blurring that out, okay? A little bit. So it's like making the head less obvious, right? Okay. For some of you, you might be seeing that a little bit more clearly. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can tell that it is blurring this out a little bit more there every time I go over it versus like the rest of the body. Now, if you want to really play around and have some fun, try the smudge tool. Okay. Once again, probably want a much larger brush size. But what this does is like if you had a face here, you could like really smudge the face by clicking and dragging it. See how it like smudges it like that? It could really work for a specific type of image that you're using. So you might want to try that out. I'm going to step backward because that's not what I want to do with this one. All right. And I am ready to apply my final element of my ghost image. Okay. I'm going to bring in my cracked wall. All right. So I'm going to go to the move tool. I'm going to click on this layer with my move tool. Top left corner is the move tool. Click on it. I'm going to drag it into here. And drag it down here. I've now moved that into this layer, right? I'm going to go to edit to make it larger, free transform. And I'm just going to drag it to meet these corners. Okay, so I'm going to drag this corner into this corner. And I'm going to drag this corner into this corner here. Great. Okay, hit enter. Now I've totally covered my image. Why am I doing this? Well, there's something really cool I'm about to show you. It's a blending mode, a layer blending mode. Also, really quick, notice that this is black and white right now because it is below my adjustment layer. But if I drag it up above the adjustment layer, it now is in color because the adjustment layer only impacts everything below it. Okay, so I'm going to drag that down. All right. And I want you to come over here where it says normal. Click on normal, and you're going to see that all of these different options do different things. So let's see what happens when I hit. Let's go to overlay first. That's the best one that usually works for this. I'm going to hit overlay. And watch what it does. See? You can still see the crack kind of coming through and the texture. And it totally messes with the entire image. All right. And one of the things that I'm kind of thinking I might want to have happen is actually have that big cracked, I'm going to go back to normal, the big like section of wall missing, maybe have that end up over my ghost. So I'm going to go to edit, transform, and then I'm going to flip it horizontally. Okay. And it just moved that to the other side. So now when I go back to overlay, it is, that crack element is actually going right over my ghost. Now, I might not like how this is working. There are all these different options. So if I go to darken, which is really very different than that, you can see the texture of that wall in my piece. I actually really like what's happening up there. And I might play around with something with that to show you some other things. And multiply does something else. Let's go to lighten. Lighten and darken do the opposite. So in lighten, you actually see the light elements of the piece, and in darken, you see the dark parts of the piece. And usually the ones below that are different variations on the same idea. Okay, so all these do very different things. Play around with it. This one's very soft, subtle. You barely see it. I'm going to go back to darken because I really love how it's adding this texture over it. And I'm actually just going to erase over here, even though I ended up really wanting part of this to show up, that crack. I really like that this crack comes across the sky and down here. And but it really covers my ghost. So I'm going to bring my ghost back by fading it in. Okay. I'm going to make this bigger. I'm going to make my brush size larger. I'm on my eraser tool, right? And I'm actually going to increase this to 50%. I want to erase a little bit more. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to erase this a little bit over my ghost to bring my ghost back out from there. So now I feel like I'm getting a little bit of the best of both worlds. And I'm gonna, erase this a little bit more here. But I'm loving what it does elsewhere, and that's why I'm kind of trying to do this. And maybe I want to get rid of it a little bit more, but because it's like I'm only doing a 50% erase, it takes a little bit over time. So this is it, right? This is my piece. If you want to crop it, please do when you're done. And this textural element is something I want you to add to, all one of the mask pictures that you do. So this last piece, this textural part, right? So I might crop it down a little bit more square if I wanted to. Okay. And then when you go to File, Save, make sure that you save export it as a JPEG, right? And then you're going to turn that in. So that's it. But let me show you one thing really quickly, just because I brought up the light leaks. I'm going to go to Google light leak filter. Actually, I want to do a bokeh one with circles so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to go to images, and this is what I kind of meant by bokeh. I like this one. It has a little bit of everything in it. So I'm going to go to this. I'm going to save it onto my desktop. I just want to show you what happens in Photopea with this image. And I'm going to bring it on top. Okay, and I'm going to resize it to fit my image. Right there. Missed a little bit on this edge. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. And wait a sec, because I have a lot going on right now in Photopea. It's struggling. Okay, so I'm going to go to my filters, right? I'm going to try overlay. See what happens. See how it does that crazy light leak element? Now, check this out. I'm going to bring it over, before I change it, I'm going to bring it over the black and white, and it's going to be in color. So look at how it's adding color on top of my image. Obviously, you can understand all of the different applications that this kind of blending mode can do for your work in general. Like how just the textures that are created in some of the different areas are so interesting, right? You can just make these really awesome textural elements that can work very much for design and different things. Again, lighten keeps the light areas of the image, whereas darken keeps the dark, gets rid of the light. You can kind of see how that's happening right there, right? So lighten, the light leaks and the light elements are showing up, and darken, they're going away. So I just wanted to show you that you can kind of play around with it. And this would be really cool, actually. I kind of like the way this looks, so maybe I would save this one if I like it better. I don't like that I lose the ghost quite a bit. So maybe I would erase here as well to kind of make that look better. But again, this is just me playing around with some other stuff. If it says that that is a smart object, by the way, that just popped up saying that is a smart object because I brought it directly into Photoshop, I have to go to Layer, and I have to rasterize it. Oh, hold on. Let's go to normal. And let's go to layer. And, oh, okay. Oh, it is rasterized. Never mind. I can't rasterize something that just was rasterized. Cool. All right. So it rasterized it. So I'm going to go back to the eraser tool, and I can erase it like so, right there. So I don't have as much of that, like kind of messing with my ghost again, right? Cool, huh? Save it, export it as a JPEG, turn it in, and you are good to go. Thanks a lot. I hope you learned a good deal and had some fun. Cheers.